Zach from Gravel Bike California, back here in the San Bernardino Mountains, where I'm ready for my return to the Tour de Big Bear, Dirty Bear. Now, when I started making videos here 5 years ago, I was a little dubious because the Strava heat map wasn't that full, but I think since that time, because the energy has picked up here and the growth of Tour de Big Bear, yeah, it's getting a lot more red. The Tour de Big Bear is already a big event and only continues to grow, and this year we're going to try a new region that goes further out into the northwest, so so glad for more to see and super summer weather here, so let's roll. With a number of road, gravel, and now mountain bike events running concurrently, it's impressive how the Tour de Big Bear is one of the best organized events, as you'll see why with the support and abundance of aid stations. This was my second time doing the Dirty Bear on a different course than previous, as I'm always excited to explore new parts of this region. Just under 50 miles, it's not about the elevation numbers, but how it's concentrated in 4 spots, with Van Dusen Canyon as a warm-up, the 3 pitches taking you into the northwest, soon followed by the 5-mile KOM segment, and after some never-ending single track, it's one last big effort to get you back up to the finish. This was my first time starting out the Bear Mountain Ski Resort, with check-in running smoothly while still keeping my commitment, honoring requests to be in the video, getting my final prep in at the VIP room, and glad to run into GVC compadre Robin in charge of all things dirt today. With a good thing I had my cameras rolling at the start to relive it, not able to see much of it looking directly into the sun, but that wasn't an issue once we got moving, meandering down through the residential, and not a lot of straight lines for a while, because I couldn't give step-by-step direction with all these turns. Pleased we had plenty of road support and a neutral rollout to begin, considering a group of this size taking over the entire roadway. The fun had just begun, crossing Stanfield Cutoff, signaling the next phase of the ride, with the pace car peeling off as we turned onto Highway 38, with that feeling everyone was jockeying for position, confirmed once turning onto Van Dusen Canyon, with the road narrowing accentuating it, where it looked like everyone was ready to climb, with no density changes hitting the dirt, and everyone keeping pace, with the grade only in the mid-single digits, meaning some may have to bank off the sides, though the pack started to separate as the adrenaline cooled off, as I've been on this road many times before in both directions, and definitely climbing it has its advantages, more able to take in the scenery along the way. Surprised it wasn't as dusty with this many people, because you also have to be aware of the traffic coming at you. It's definitely a good climb to keep tempo, and not fire any bullets you'll need for later, knowing the climb starts to flatten out at mile 9, because spinning is winning. Gorgeous to ride alongside this meadow, and even freewheeling a bit, with the road still bouncy, but plenty of lines to find, making a familiar turn at the intersection, heading east on Holcomb Valley Road. But unlike other trips, this was short-lived, encircling the Holcomb Valley campground, passing early by the Hangman's Tree, maybe explaining why I haven't ridden this before, but there were ample signs of life around, even out along the road, though an ease of passing through, with the surface that helped expedite it, exiting now west onto Holcomb Valley Road that looked relatively smooth, but factoring in your speed on this slight downhill, the bumps can get exponentially difficult for some to handle. A short-lived issue, already passing our second aid station, now going into some of my favorite scenery in the region, looking at the larger meadow here in Holcomb Valley. Rare to see this pristine open space without development that is an even more worthy camping site. I've had a lot of experience taking Delamar Road to the left, but going straight was something new. Soon starting a series of 3 climbs, totaling a little over 2 miles, with the first being almost double the grade of the other 2, being the initial spot where likely elevation will come into play for everybody, now well over 7,000 feet above sea level, and being forced into the red no matter how easy you take it, with the first reprieve coming a half mile in, and you'd be smart using that momentum on the second pitch because you can make short work of it done properly. But the last effort has a different landscape, seeing trees as more scarce with sand taking its place, knowing you're near the peak as softness fades, reaching your highest point of the ride so far, crossing the 7,600 foot mark, now hovering over the Lucerne Valley, with a chance to let go of some of this altitude. While I was looking for him earlier, glad to finally hook up with Brian, as it's not full throttle yet, going over the top, getting a little bounce for the ounce, and sometimes it doesn't matter how many signs you've put up. Still with a little more until the descent got going, knowing there was a mile of downhill ahead, but the maps don't normally tell you about the integrity of the surface, as I was looking forward to these new views, while this might be the longest I've ever shown a clip, because even far back I knew I was in trouble being too far left in this heavy sand, knowing this result was just a matter of time. That didn't hurt me, but I literally got a taste of the landscape.
Are you okay? Yeah.
Luckily, my bike came out unscathed. After doing my own self-check, I noticed my bike took the brunt of it as grains caused my brakes to seize, but you can see I did a good enough job cleaning it out, although it would be an issue elsewhere later, with the 1/3 of a mile climb giving me a second glance at my bike, utilizing the higher level of confidence, getting right back at descending. There were a couple more opportunities to demonstrate any prowess in sand, getting return onto pavement at our next intersection, turning away from the Pine Flat campground, and will I ever learn? With the magic continuing on Coxsey Road, just a different environment that you'd expect being around the lake, with the speed being the downside of experiencing it more. Seeing the aid station at mile 20 to be a good stopping point, telling Brian I'd catch him up after taking some drone shots. That didn't end up getting airborne thanks to dirt jamming it from the crash, so I tried playing catch up knowing the KOM was coming, but the short pitch wasn't it, though pretty confident more downhill was in between, knowing most segments don't start on this trending elevation, that while wide was a little bumpy, as I tried using this opportunity to get some clues for the climb, while also staying aware for other passerbys, trying to keep momentum through the nadir for the start of the ascent, so much so that I didn't have time to turn on all my cameras, as it was time to strap in for this 5-mile climb. No doubt you'd be emptying your gears out soon, riding along the edge, feeling like it's playing a part, providing an elegant view of our descent just behind us, with the pitch not crossing the threshold to eliminate smiles, but it was a case of settling in for the grind, trying to ignore the long views of the road, keeping the same tempo for the first 1.5 miles, where after you'd get some paved assist, although there's still plenty of work left, passing by the Hannah Flat campground that had some wonderful single track exiting into it that we experienced on last year's Send It. Fine to return to dirt with some flattening, passing yet another rest stop that I think might have been primary to the mountain bike riders, confirmed with our turn onto Delamar Mountain Road, with their race going full throttle as our pass would cross on the familiar 2171, where soon I caught up with the Redlands crew just in time for the last third of this climb, that while not steep, the bumps definitely jolt your rhythm, while also raising the difficulty for more glances at the lake, starting to feel the elevation, reaching the top, crossing the KOM, topping out at about 7,700 feet, with the better panorama reward, but with the downhill match. On paper, it was just 4 miles back to Highway 38. Surprised to see a decent amount of hikers up here, maybe doing a loop with the nearby Pacific Crest Trail, with the descent getting gradually bumpier, causing some air pressure issues with Ty, as here I was in no rush to hurry back, and plenty around if problems become next level. Interesting to notice yet another surface change turning onto Palique Canyon Road, introducing a new color, although technically all colors, with Ty wisely picking up gear before it got run over, noting to Brian, I might need to check out the refreshing spray on my legs. Glad to have his assist technically instead of medically this time, needing to put not one, but 2 plugs to hold my tire. Thankfully, all this patience paying dividends, slow rolling our way back to see if we were making the right choice. And I mean, yeah, round wheels tend to roll, and just maybe we'll make it through, passing the test, having enough air to still avoid cars, with an extra sense of relief hitting pavement, looking forward to some easy miles. The next 10 miles to our longest single track section was pretty tame. Glad to knock off more distance on Highway 38, with the road 25 milers taking over the other direction, while we still had rollers at best paralleling the lake, easily keeping a 20-mile-an-hour pace, coming back up onto Stanfield Cutoff, closing off what you could call a 30-mile loop turning into the aid station that had a head-banging theme and hair to match, although most not natural, with this being the biggest aid station on the course, pulling out all stops, definitely a magnet for group photos, as we soon returned to the road, now moving away from the lake, with our gravel bike doing road bike work, beginning our return to the south side, getting back into the residential, not knowing the nature at first of what was happening after our next turn, other than enjoying the mountains as a backdrop, with the course veering off on the back roads of the back roads, not exactly a trail, but more of a path for cutting through that was short but appreciative for the discovery. We wrapped around again, joining the road riders, continuing with them up Big Bear Boulevard, rolling by another stunning meadow on the edge of town. Glad this one is largely vacant too. Now back on Highway 38 briefly with the road riders as they headed up towards Onyx Summit, peaking at 8,400 feet, while we turned off onto Baldwin Lane. That's the longest straight line for us for the day, which helps exaggerate its steepness, as I was prepped for the next 3 miles. A hairball directionally of single track, which keeps you on your toes turn after turn. Glad you can just trust the markings and let it rip. The single track had a cherry on top, with one last cheery station, including Laura until the end, and you'd be wise to refill, even for this last 6.5 miles. Needing a motivating high five from Matt as a send-off, with a series of heavy efforts starting on the road that continues right on to dirt, mixing it up on single track, riding allegedly between the Baldwin and Dixie loops. Hard to tell which one with all the turns. And this leg grinding action that was definitely taking its toll. Glad that I still had some juice saved up, though making it back onto the tarmac, the altitude and late exertion was making expense. So even getting a little lead into our last piece of dirt, it wasn't even much of a momentum builder. With avoiding this truck not even the worst part, battling through this rockscape, bouncing us all over the place, making me feel bad for that homeowner's drive, literally taking the high road to sidestep the worst, as balancing was tougher than it looked. But in reality, this beleaguered stretch isn't that long. It just feels like it deep into the route. And while saying goodbye to dirt for the day, just one more final effort left, pushing our way up the modern Angels Camp Road, where riders can really show their struggle at this point, that even the neighbors come out to cheer, where now the final 2 miles feels like a release, appreciating this smooth surface to coast on, rejoining our narrow-tired compatriots for one last time, making the final turn back into Bear Mountain, bailing at our course line stance, crossing the finish, pretty tempted to get hosed off, rather wanting to put myself into checkout mode, once again congratulating Jonas on another win, this one on road, as everyone was ready to celebrate today's effort, and the ride's staff and volunteers willing to oblige, coming back to a very good-sized fair atmosphere, with libations available, as well as many friends around, hoping to see them on gravel again, Sam, with another great day at the Tour de Big Bear.
So glad to make it back to Tour de Big Bear. I mean, such a well-organized event, no matter which discipline you do. Of course, I'm glad I'm partial to gravel because it really takes you out to these places that you can best see on a gravel bike, especially the new area I got to see. So, to Robin and all the crew out here, did a fantastic job. If you want to support us, please go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe, go to our shop, or support us on Patreon, so we can bring you more from the State of Dirt.